Welcome everybody to today's video. Today we are going to be breaking down the technique of the single sculls from the men's single scull at the Lucerne 2025 World Cup. I'll be hopefully breaking these down in a way that you can understand it, you can implement these changes into your stroke, and yeah, you can just learn a little bit more about what the different techniques from crews around the world are. For those that are new here, my name's Jack Burns. I'm the founder of Edge Rowing, where we work with busy professionals over the age of 40, getting them rowing to the best versions of themselves. Cool. So the overarching thing, I think for me in the last few years has been, I just haven't really seen any technically outstanding single scullers in the men's field. It's maybe since probably Robbie Manson is the last single sculler that I saw that I think really went fast because they were rowing well. It seems to be a bit more of a trend nowadays to have the really powerful single scullers in the kind of 540s, low 540s, and now 530s even dominate the field, which is interesting. I often think about how, is there a limit to how technically good you can be when you're at a certain kind of erg score? But really, I think all you have to do is look back to Rob Waddell, the Kiwi sculler, 6'8", 536 2K, and he rode really nicely. Had a really nice catch, really nice hang, really nice drive. I think I did a video on him a while ago, but just go and look up the 20. After you watch this video, of course, go and watch the 2000 Olympics final. Really technically good sculler and really powerful. But anyways, the thing I was seeing a lot off the start was just the way that people would load. And to me, of course, the start, it's hard to get this right, but you know, a lot of the crews would come into the catch loose. And then as they would drive, as we look at kind of, for example, this single sculler, shoulders pretty low here. And then as they, also I got some advice from somebody who was watching this video that you can just use, rather than do this, you can just do the arrow keys, move them back and forth, which is actually so helpful. So I can't remember your name, but whoever you are, thank you. But we look at this position here, and this is not just this guy, but a lot of them. You know, this is a really nice position to be in, sitting up nice and tall, you know, shoulders down nice and loose. This is a good position that everybody should be trying to hit, legs nice and compressed. But then as they drive, the big thing I notice, especially off the start, is that just the way they would load as they would come through the middle part of the stroke, it would seem like a lot of the tension would go up and the shoulders would go up as they would drive. And all that does is it just sends more force into your shoulders, which sends more of your kind of force up. And I can't remember is it Einstein that said what comes up must come down? Is that even what he said? But when you drive your force up like this and you're pushing up, you then obviously have to come down. And then what you want in contrast to that is a nice low drive. And if you're driving horizontally and thinking about almost like there's somebody here with their hand there pushing on your back, you know, you want to think about pushing into that hand and driving low and no tension up here. And it's almost like you have you want to think about rowing like you're trying to do a max 1 rep deadlift while meditating. And just a lot of, especially at the start here, I know it's easy for me to be critical at the start, but just so many of the crews just really looked like they had quite a lot of tension when they loaded here. The German sculler as well. See if we can get him in shot. Really coming through there. Okay, decently loose here. But then as you can see as you take the load, the shoulders go up. Lots of movement here in the kind of deltoids, the loading. And of course, you're going to see movement in the deltoids. You're going to see the muscles engage, but then the shoulders also go up. You can see they get closer to the ear. You want to think about keeping, and part of what helps this is keeping your shoulders down and staying loose, but also making sure you're using your lats. But anyways, there are a few things here. So awesome performance. I'm going to be give you a spoiler here if you haven't watched it, but the Kiwi Scholar had an awesome sprint. Apparently he hit a 1:32 in like the last 100 meters, which is crazy to hit that in a single, let alone in the last 250 of a 2K race. But for me, the first thing, so can't remember what you're meant to call the no name nation, the Russian. I don't know what you're meant to call the country that they race for, but anyways, nice for me. Quite a nice catch, I would say. They place on the way going forward. You know, at the high rates, one thing I talk about all the time is, I'm not going to go into it too much in this video, but you want to place as you're moving forward, and what happens is you get a nice air pocket here, and you want to wait until that air pocket is filled up before you push. But yeah, this sculler here, if I was to criticize them, I'd say the one thing they do is they're a bit short at the front, and then they're maybe a bit short at the back as well. But in contrast to what the other people were doing, like for me, one thing they do really well, and I think maybe it's part of the reason they were leading the race, low shoulders here, nice and loose, sitting up nice and tall, really good position here at the front. Actually, you know, maybe slowing it down. I wouldn't say they're that short at the front. But watch what happens in their shoulders here. Ah, fuck's sake. I was hoping that the circle would stay in line, but you can see what I mean. Their shoulders don't change. The shoulders stay low. Maybe a bit of forearm arm grabbing. You can see the arms bend quite a lot. I'm going on quite a few tangents here, but arm bending isn't the end of the world, if you ask me. I think it's not ideal. You still shoot for long arms and a long hang, but what it can also do is help with your transition through the back. It can also, oh shit. What happens is, because your arm is bent, your elbow is now closer to your lat. When your elbow is straight, your elbow is a little bit further away from your lat. And basically when your elbow is closer to your lat, it's easier to apply force. But anyways, don't try and bend your arms more. I'm just trying to make the point that it's not the end of the world if you do. Yeah. Coming through, I would say, you know, maybe they start to open too early. Okay, they bend the arms as they drive, which is something I don't think is good. You want to, if you're going to have an arm bend, you want to keep the same arm bend the whole way. But as they open, what the fuck is going on? I'm trying this new mouse technique, and it's like I'm not quite familiar with it yet. When they come through the middle, to me, it just looks like they kind of bring the load into their body a little bit as they open, rather than just kind of like leave it alone and press and hang. Yeah, good example here of keeping the shoulders loose at the start when they're applying a lot of force. Right, who is next? Can't remember. I actually made notes for this one. Cool. So for me, looking at the German sculler here, what I did like about them was how smooth they were at the catch, how they took up the load, and how they just picked it up really nicely and really smoothly. So there's just a really good loose timing. Now, despite their shoulders going up, I really liked the way that they flowed in and timed that lift with the push. We just look here, playing it kind of constantly. A really nice flow into the front, and they kind of really good timing of lift and then push. So let's try and slow this down and see if we can learn something. So they come in. They're at their catch position here. They lift. Okay, a bit of back. The Germans generally don't get very much backsplash from what I've seen. They kind of roll the blade in a little bit, which the pro of that is you don't resist the boat by backing the blade in with your blades. The con is that you're normally push a little bit early and you push before you're connected, which means that you damage the run of the stern a little bit. There's no perfect way to put the blade in, but anyways, we see here, okay, like full slide. There, the blades are out of the water. They lift, and if you look at a gold standard catch, you don't want any movement. When you're in this position here, if we look at the seat and if we look at the shoulders, when you lift, you want to keep all of this still until your hands are fully connected, until the blade is fully locked in the water. And what you normally see is people put the blade in by rowing it in that direction and opening up, and then their hands are connected and then they push. But what we see here is just a really nice patience. See here, okay, seat's in this position, shoulders are here, hands are here. As they lift, seat doesn't move. If anything, the seat almost gets a little bit closer. And then there, the blade's connected. You can see their hands really haven't moved that much. I know the frame's obviously moving. And then they drive. And what they do really nicely is they just time that patient lift, and there's no wasted hanging around, but it's the hard balance of waiting until the spoon's connected, lifting your hands while staying still, and then timing that push. And they've got a really good timing here, a really smooth connection, and how they apply force. Now, moving on to the Norwegian sculler, the really long on the front. I'd be interested to know how far out they are. So when it comes to biomechanics and getting your rig sorted, if we think about your boat, and it's like this, if we're looking from above, and just say you've got the kind of classic rigger with the three stay here, just so it makes sense, and you've got your oar. I don't know if I'm going to draw that actually, but what you want is when you're at the finish, so I'm going to change that drawing. So this is your rigger. When you are sitting at the finish, if we think about you are back here, and your oar angle, you've just taken a stroke, and your oar comes in like that. We basically want this angle here to be 45 degrees. That is apparently, I actually don't know how they figured this out, but apparently that's the most efficient way, most efficient angle to hit at the front. And then when you get to the catch, you want that angle to be slightly bigger. You want it to be around 70 degrees, and apparently it's 69 degrees is the angle that you want to hit at the front. So you want to be 45 at the back and then 69 at the front. And looking at this sculler here, this looks so long. And normally the way you can tell if this is right or not is by the hand position at the finish, and it just doesn't look like there's that much separation. Generally, you want kind of like a few hands width in between your hands, and just by looking at this, it would look like he's a bit shorter at the back. He maybe looks like a 40 degrees at the back, and then when he gets to the front, I don't know, maybe bigger than that. I don't know. It's obviously impossible to tell just by looking, but yeah, I mean, their technique, what else do they do well? They're rating pretty low, which is kind of good to see. I think there's a trend of scullers rating too high, or at least the downside of it has been that I think a lot of people who watch elite racing think that they have to rate that high, and I see far too many crews trying to rate what Ollie Ziedler rates for their single scull race, and they just do it by rushing it with bad technique. But it's good to see some people going quick at the lower stroke rates. But yeah, honestly, don't have that much more to say about the Norwegian. But what I would like to talk about is the Kiwi sculler. in the last 250 and how they applied their force. And what I really liked about how this guy here, mental sprint, crazy sprint. So potentially a new kid on the block, Logan Ulrich. I think he's just graduated from Washington University, so I could be wrong here, but a bit newer to single sculling. I don't know, he could have been sculling before, just guessing. But anyways, super, super powerful, super explosive. I think he shares quite a lot of his times on Instagram. I'm just looking here. He did in training, he did a 6K at a 1:32 split, which is pretty good. It was like literally part of a workout that he did it in, so obviously has a lot of juice. But looking at the technique here, what I would say is really, obviously, I mean, it's easy for anybody to criticize in the last like few hundred meters of a race, but really, really going for it, really physical, quite a lot of tension, quite a lot of loading in the I'm really trying this new technique and I don't think it's working. Let me know in the comments when if you guys like it when I try and piss about doing this. The arrow thing is not working, for fuck's sake. Sorry. I might just go back to my old method for this scrolling stuff. But anyways. Quite tense if we look at this position here. If we look at the angle, the way it changes as well, they kind of open their back a little bit when they first put the blade in. There's just this forward angle, and then they kind of open a little bit and kind of get out of that. But there's a lot of things that they're doing really well here, and it looks very physical. It looks quite brutal, actually. But if we slow it down and actually look at the technique, really good catch, like really nice catch here. I'm going to see if we can get it in shot for one. The friggin' like world rowing tracker thing is in the way. But you can see by looking at the other blade, good patience on the front. They're waiting until they're full. They've got that actually V splash with the blade, which is normally a sign that you've taken the catch well. But really good length, long arms, long legs, and they hang all the way through the finish. They're still pushing through here. They've dug quite deep with the blades. You can see how much the shaft is going into the water and how much water that's kicking up. But again, sprinting in the last 250 of your race, that can happen. And what I liked about what they were doing is they really hanged all the way through to the finish. He's still coming through here with the arms, still connected into the water. This is something like we go on about all the time when we are coaching, but when you're through to the finish here, make sure that you are still pushing through your skeleton, through your arms, through into the water and connecting that way. And a lot of the time, people get here, they extend all the way, and then they just let their arms come through and they don't actually push through their feet. So I think this is a big part of how they were able to apply so much force and so much power, and a lot of the time your legs can be really screaming at you in this part of the race, and just hanging and pressing through the finish with your back and arms can be a good way to keep momentum going. And yeah, just crazy. I would have loved to know what watts they were doing at this point in the race. But one other thing that's going to make them go faster is if they start taking the blade out cleanly. But if we look, part of why it's maybe hard for them to do this, if we look at how high their hands are here, like look at, this angle that the oar has kind of upwards. Look at how high their hands are, kind of almost in line with their shoulders. And then they come through still very high with the hands. They're pulling in, to their kind of mid chest. And then they get here and they have to go all the way from here, all the way down with the hands, all the way down there, and then the blade's out. And you can see they've had to go all the way down to there. Maybe one thing at the start of the race, I didn't look and see if there's any footage, or maybe something they're working on is carrying their hands. If you carry your hands a little bit lower as you drive, less room to tap down at the finish. And it requires less movement, requires less energy. It just makes everything a little bit simpler and cleaner. And good single sculling is about removing any extra movements that you don't need to. Yeah, nice connection and explosiveness all the way through the finish. I really enjoyed watching this sprint. It was pretty cool to see the grit towards the end. But yeah, maybe a newer single sculler on the block. I know the Kiwis, they're always jumping in and out of different boats, so who knows? But yeah, excited to see the kind of maybe the next challenger for Ollie Zeidler. But anyways, if you found this video useful, comment glasses. I recently got glasses because I kept getting migraines. I'm trying to figure out what's causing it. But yeah, this was honestly, I had a bit of a break from doing these videos for a few weeks. So I'm going to be honest, that was a bit rusty. Regular viewers will probably know that. But anyways, if you found it useful, like it. If you have any questions, let me know. If there's any other races you want me to do, let me know. I'm just about to do the women's single sculls after this. But yeah, all the best and appreciate you watching. Cheers.